originally. We all were in that age. We were taught, and when we read the books and we listen to clinicians, everyone pays lip service to these ideas, but very often people don't follow them. So for me, it's very exciting that somebody of her prominence can change the way she's thinking. Remember how she thought 20 years ago, not what has happened in competitive riding over the last 20 and maybe longer, I don't know, years, that people have begun to force horses into frames because it creates, through compression, it creates more spectacular movement, but it's not more correct movement. Horses are falling by the wayside. Every single week in this country, hundreds of horses are being imported to this country from all over Europe. Horses with spectacular movement, unbelievable horses. And we see them for a year or 2 years. If we're lucky, we see them for 3 years, and then we don't see them anymore. What happens to them? Why don't we see them anymore? These are horses that are born with the gaits of an advanced horse. Horses that should be the easiest horses to train because they're already halfway there. But because of that, people take shortcuts. People force movements, they force frames, and horses break down. They break down physically and they break down mentally. I can't tell you how many horses are on the market who used to be spectacular as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, and now they're rank and wild and nobody can ride them because guess what? They don't want to go on the bit. You know, a horse doesn't want to or not want to go on the bit. A horse is ridden to the bridle. He's prepared and balanced so that he is on the bit. But when I hear that, and I hear it all the time, oh, my horse, I need a fancier one. I need a, one with better gaits. Why? He had spectacular gaits when you bought him. What happened to his gaits? And what Stephanie was talking about earlier about this hyperflexion, which we see all the time, over and over and over, at the Olympic level. Those of you who watch Olympic level competition on the TV or on the computer, it breaks our heart now. Horses are not, the gaits are not pure. We see 4-beat trots where the horses are so, the anomalies in the gaits are unbelievable. Horses aren't staying sound. And we see, obviously, we see 4-beat canters, but they're not on the forehand like a Western pleasure horse. They're 4-beat canters on the haunches, where there's too much pressure, too much compression. And we see, why is it that we see in dressage horses more front leg injuries than we ever see hind leg injuries? We think of dressage horses sitting down, carrying the weight on the haunches. But no, we see more front leg suspensory injuries in a moment of trying to burst out of that trapped, forced frame. And a horse will take a stride like that and tear a suspensory. It's craziness. It's sad. It's tragic. So here again, back to the original thing when Holly said, let's talk about the importance of maintaining and adhering to classical principles in the training of competition horses. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? We want our horses to last as long as they can. I love to think of that little man on the television that when I was a little girl, my mother used to watch, Jack LaLanne. And now he is, those of you who remember Jack LaLanne, now he is in his 90s. And he's still more fit than most people in their 50s. He still swims, I don't know how many miles a day. He's spectacular. He has methodically developed his body over his lifetime. He's never worn it out. And now in his late life, he's stronger and better than most people in middle age. This is what dressage is supposed to do for horses. Whether we use dressage to go compete, or whether we use dressage to train our driving horse or our jumping horse or anything, our trail horse, is supposed to prolong the useful, sound life of our horse. So, to me, it's just such an obvious thing. And when I can bring an example like this trainer who's now seen the light again, and I know she knew this stuff, that she wasn't, none of what I was giving her, the information I was giving her, it's not my information. I didn't invent it. It's been passed down for centuries. I'm lucky enough that I've had a lot of very wonderful teachers who've helped me understand how to develop a horse physically and mentally. And I know that she has too, but somewhere along the road, we got off track. We headed back into the Dark Ages. I love it. My friend Riz always says, you know, the horses took us out of the Dark Ages. And unfortunately, in a lot of competitive riding, we've gone right back into the Dark Ages. And we need to come back out. Luckily, there is a big movement among the international, in the international scene from some very prominent trainers and coaches and veterinarians to get back to classical training. Our own coach, he's no longer our coach anymore, but Klaus Balkenhol, is a big push toward stopping the methods used often today in the training of international horses. And this veterinarian who has done a great deal of work in understanding the anatomy and the biomechanics of movement in horses and what certain methods of training, how it damages horses physically. And he's been very courageous in fighting his own countrymen, his own national federation, to stop this type of training. So I'm optimistic. We're headed down the road back toward classical training. And with